background. And go.
It's an incredibly challenging part. It's probably the hardest part I've ever played. I mean, all of it was fascinating to me.
The inversion of the monster being this very beautiful young woman was interesting.
Just to see where it was being pitched initially was really exciting.
Yorgos loves to put his characters in very, very extreme circumstances.
I'd never really done something like this before.
It opens a door to curiosity.
With Yorgos, it's always a thorough process getting the lens language together.
We're mixing time periods, we're mixing styles.
It's so hard to find a vision that isn't stepped on by fear.
Yorgos told me that there's been one movie he's been wanting to make that everyone's like, do not make that movie. And then he said to me, so we're gonna make that movie.
The people were hired for a reason, and they had a very specific and strong vision for the execution of these things, and I think that's very inspiring.
Oh.
I read the novel around 2010, I think, and I immediately got very excited.
Whee!
Yes, it is exciting, Bella.
I believe she's doing...
Mrs. Prim.
It's an extraordinary novel, highly original. But I wasn't at all surprised that Yorgos long nurtured a desire to make a film.
I was actually surprised that it wasn't already done. We contacted Alasdair Gray, we went to his house. I didn't have to say much to him. I just said, I watched your film Dogtooth I had made at the time, and I'd be happy to give you my novel and you can make it into a film.
The year that we made The Favorite, which was 2017, Yorgos and I started talking about Poor Things. The idea of having a brain that is brand new. What would that be? What would a woman be? What would a man be? What would anyone be?
Yorgos just sent it to me and said it's kind of a wild book, but it's amazing and I really want to make it into a movie. And how would we do that? How would you adapt it?
Where did she come from?
I believe your job is collecting data. When I add inane questions to it, I'll let you know.
Yorgos, he is always searching for the humanity in extremis, if that makes sense. Maybe people wouldn't describe his films as comedies.
What is the purpose of putting them back in, sir?
My amusement.
They're all incredibly funny. And I think he's one of the few filmmakers who can pivot from the most outrageous violence to high comedy.
Bella cut 2.
Just dead ones for Bella.
In the space of a scene, or even in the space of a moment sometimes.
Squish, squish, squish.
That vulnerability and that absurdity of unlikely people in unlikely situations.
It works off a sort of Frankenstein genre. He was drawn to that idea of what sort of movie we could make around that genre that was something else.
Tell me what all this means or I'll go to the police.
I shall, for it is a happy tale. Then you leave that behind. It becomes something else. Primarily because of the relationship between my character, the doctor, and Emma Stone's Bella is quite different than the Frankenstein myth. All my research had come to this moment. It was obvious.
It was?
Take the infant's brain out and put it in the full-grown woman.
The story was just immediately inspiring as a woman in the world to imagine that you could have the kind of mind that isn't conditioned by being a small girl, being taught to be a certain way, that she could operate in a completely non-socially conditioned way. How men react to that, how other women react to that.
I've never been cocked by another man, and yet I've wondered on that.
All of these things that women are conditioned a whole lifetime through do not apply to her. And so you get some very funny situations as she's exploring her sexuality, as she's exploring society without any understanding what the norms are or the rules.
Feel funny.
Do Bella.
And it's alluring, it's exciting. You're drawn to that innocence and you're drawn to the curiosity that she has and the absorption of the world that she has.
Emma's been really so much part of it. She's a producer on the film. She's been very important in how we've developed the story and how we're talking about putting it out into the world and very much guiding that.
Especially now, I don't know how this could have been, made without her. Everything that we considered that had to do with the film, I would just discuss it with her. Researching and designing the world, I would share all the visuals with her.
The process of making the film has been, it's incredibly complicated. Thinking about what the scale of it would be and what the world would kind of look like, and I was so excited.
She's unbelievable. She's really tracking the progression of this character because it's such a fine line how to thread the development of the brain, and especially as we shoot things out of order sometimes, the way that she is able to track where she's at, step into it, not just with her voice, but also with her body, and still have the timing of the scene. She's really balancing a lot.
Willem has this playful quality that's just constantly there. The wheels are always turning.
God, you are walking.
I have taken 5 milligrams of heroin through the toes for pain, amphetamines for energy, and cocaine, because I am partial to cocaine.
He's a genius, and there's nothing put on or funny business just for funny business. It's all incredibly genuine and rooted inside of him.
Willem never wants to leave set. He sleeps on set if he's too tired, lies somewhere on a couch or something until it's time for him to work. And that's great for all of us.
We would play around and do exercises and physical stuff to create this ensemble. And Mark was so funny, I was always in the danger of pissing my pants. Okay. Are you 5 years old that you can't hold your water?
Weak bladder, sir, like my father before me and his before him.
I never really do rehearsals in terms of how the film is gonna be. But Mark came in and he had this idea. We started having so much fun with him and the character, and I was laughing so hard throughout the rehearsals. We couldn't see him any other way.
You really get to know people and you really get to love them. We had a trust which was very free and very safe, which is a dream. That's what you want actors to feel.
I had to meet this woman who would inspire such a contract of marriage that imprisons her.
He sells himself as an anarchist, kind of. But of course, Duncan's this raging narcissist.
You're a prisoner, and I aim to free you.
I think it's just brilliant casting on Yorgos' part, because I don't think you would expect to see someone as soulful and sensitive as Mark play this type of person, and he does it so brilliantly.
From her.
Max is this kind of poor, disheveled student who clearly is in awe of his professor.
Mr. Max McCandles. Walk with me at the end of the lesson.
Yorgos was really struck by Rami and what a skilled actor he is. He brings such intelligence, such sensitivity.
I always did his shot last when we didn't have time because I knew he would get it immediately. He was so into the tone and the humor.
It is your body, Bella Baxter. Yours to give freely.
I generally charge 30 francs.
Well, that seems low.
And manages to create this character who is a little bit of an outsider, who finds a community of other outsiders.
Yes, out!
Has she ever been outside? Through his eyes, we start to see the world that Godwin Baxter has built.
This house is fantastic in every sense of the word. It is a thing unto itself. It shapes how you act, it shapes how you feel. This is the dining room. This is where we have dinner. This is a piano that Bella plays around with. This is an interesting floor. All this was designed by Shona Heath and James Price.
He is God, he's a God creator. So the house is a manifestation of that, yeah, absolutely.
I was looking for someone to do, the production design for this film, and I could never figure out someone specific. I thought that maybe if I put two people that have, very different minds together, and if it worked out and if they got along, it would become something very interesting.
This idea of sort of cutting and splicing and opening up, which is his job, I imagined he would do that within his home. So I looked at the John Soane's museum, which also he had approached architecture. He just cut into walls and opened things up, knocked things through. That was what I imagined Baxter would do with his own home, because he wants Bella to be happy here and to not need anything more than here.
This is Bella's room. Dressing and the detail is quite extraordinary. There's nothing really normal or familiar.
There's so much originality. And there are fish on Bella's ceiling, and there's seaweed and a mirror that has ears and these padded silk walls with cityscapes sewn in, and I want to copy it. I want to live in that bedroom.
Bella's an adult, but she needed sort of soft corners and things that she couldn't hurt herself on. So her room is incredibly soft and very beautiful. And there's a secret door.
I got scared for a second. I thought we were trapped in here.
It's been unbelievable. We're in Budapest, in Hungary, shooting on many sound stages. Our world has been built. I know they worked very closely in tandem, and I remember seeing the early lookbooks of what they were working on, because they have two very different sensibilities that seem to have met up so beautifully.
I mean, you could see they've created a world. It's Victorian, it's a dream, it's gorgeous, and it really does serve kind of the vision of Yorgos Lanthimos, who, above everything else, wants creative license.
I'm like losing it.
It really defines the story we're telling. It's got a really refined aesthetic, but it's also got a sense of humor. Sometimes I just wander around.
I've never seen anything like it, and it is as big as it looks, even in a 4mm lens, which is the widest possible angle. It's bigger than that.
Yorgos loves black and white. Sure, why wouldn't you? It's a beautiful, beautiful celluloid. I remember when we were in prep that he's thinking the first bit of the film should be in black and white, and then when she goes on her journey, that this kaleidoscope of color comes out.
In the beginning, we're supposed to shoot less black and white, but we did the tests, and it looked so incredible that I wanted to shoot some more, so we decided to do the first part. But also, it would be interesting for us as well, to not have seen her world clearly until she starts her journey. There's this film stock called Ektachrome that has this very colorful texture, so it's like a huge leap for her forward.
Ektachrome was something Yorgos is keen on trying. It's a reversal film, so it's a very, very colourful, contrasty stock. It pushes reality a bit, and that's what Poor Things is about. It's got stopped manufactured for a while, and then they brought it out again as a 16mm stock. Yorgos was keen to try and get Kodak to make it as a 35mm stock. And it really does come from the director to kind of push for these not necessarily economical ways of filming, but are very bespoke and very unique.
Holly, our costume designer, came in with so many boards and so many ideas that were just brilliant. I flew to Athens before our rehearsal process to do a long early fitting with Holly and Yorgos.
I was quite fascinated by this discordancy between these period costumes and how would you wear them if you were actually a child, a baby, or a toddler in these very elegant grown woman's clothes. I found that really fascinating.
We had a very good starting point with Bella because she's so unique. It gives you the freedom to, think outside the box. Basically, we're free to experience the film, through our contemporary status.
Parents.
Peru. Yes.
We very quickly decided that she should always have bare feet, like a lot of young children. She may have been dressed in the morning by Mrs. Prim, but has lost most of it by lunchtime. So they're always worn with a pair of knickers, or with a pair of bloomers, or with a little play suit, or a weird bustle.
She really had these ideas for textures and intestinal or body parts. Like there's a vagina blouse, you know, like everything symbolizes something.
Yorgos is really drawn to strange material qualities. He likes things that have a hard-to-place texture.
Everybody's costume is gorgeous. I could walk down Fifth Avenue with this today, then actually look cool.
Men were very peacockish in the Victorian age. I mean, sumptuous, like wild. They were into their clothes and their look, and we took that to the extreme. I mean, I probably had like 15 fittings. Everything was tailor-made.
My father pinned my thumbs into a small iron case to see whether he could retard the growth cycle of bones.
Creating Baxter for Willem was quite the process, because one reference that kept coming back all the time was this Francis Bacon painting with a kind of distorted face. How you take that and make that into a prosthetic is a very different thing, and it's what looks good sometimes on a flat surface to what looks good on a moving face.
We're familiar with prosthetics, so we're familiar with how much you have to do to someone's face to change it quite a lot, and the difficult bit is actually to change it as radically as Yorgos wanted it, but still keep the actor and keep the performance and keep the expression.
The pieces that they put on, they glue onto the face, then blend, and then paint. So every day, 3 to 4 hours, they're remaking it.
We have an eyebrow piece on his right eyebrow. There's a scar piece down his face, and then there's a big ear piece, so he's got a larger ear on one side, so it's almost like he's had another ear transplanted on at some point.
The detail into even the scars, how precise the scars would be, because if his father's such a fantastic surgeon, they wouldn't be jaggedy. It was quite the process to get there and to create something that's kind of strange, but you also see Willem and you also kind of love him. It was quite the thing.
Good night, dear Bella.
When I listen to Jerskin's music, there's something about the sound, the instrumentation, that doesn't necessarily follow known structures. And in a way, he can create almost abstract, playful stuff on an emotional level.
In terms of the music, Yorgos, he really likes to use music in a way that either totally subverts the emotion of the scene or, like, amplifies it. I started thinking about instrumentation and textures quite early. I was very affected by seeing the designs I was sent, the set designs, costumes and the props and everything. They were so vivid, very beautiful and tactile, but also kind of garish and poisonous and toxic. I wanted to have a lot of instruments that involved air and mechanics, matched this kind of bizarre Victorian cyborg thing going on. Things which are very beautiful, but also very uneasy. I think there were things like glockenspiels and harps, which are traditionally very kind of pretty. We ended up bending and manipulating and have something that almost felt familiar. I was so struck by how childish all of the characters were and how not just Bella, who literally is a child, but like everyone else, Godwin, Max, Duncan, that they're all in their own ways very immature and very naive. When you're younger, when you see kids not being able to control their emotions at all, they're like unrealistically happy or completely, burst into tears at nothing. And I wanted that kind of real volatility and childishness in the music.
For now, it's not the kind of film that gets made in the world at the moment, and people really want to get behind that vision.
Basically, all these things as a student or film cinephile, you go, oh, I'd love to shoot on that. You're like, and Yorgos was able to achieve that.
You can just immerse yourself into that world, and they can just be. They don't have to think or imagine that it's there.
I was thinking about that on set, like, I want to see this. Like day one, in a dream world at the ArcLight on a Friday.
It's just a fun thing after 6 years to suddenly see it all come to life, and it's better than you could have imagined,
As we perform it, I'm even more surprised. Even though I know it's gonna happen, I'm still surprised.
It's kind of everything I needed at that moment. You'll rarely find a director who's always with you by the camera, and he's there.
I feel like his bizarreness is coming from his heart. He's breaking all the rules too. They're just all a bunch of weirdos in the greatest way.
That creates a relationship. It's not just a set, it's a place that I will always remember.
I loved the script from the beginning. What I really love about the stories that Yorgos tells, they tend to be challenging and morally ambiguous and leave you with more questions sometimes than answers. It just felt like the perfect combination of all of that.
It took a while, but I think both I progressed and made things, and the world also progressed a little bit and was ready maybe to accept this story.
Ouvre.
What is this?
Oh, une fleur délicate. Je suis trop brusque pour toi, ma pétale.
I do not relish his tone. What is his purpose?
Health officer, check you all for disease. Line up.
Why us? Why not check all the men? For they bring the disease in. Lâchez-la.
Quoi?
Bella.
This is not how a doctor behaves to a patient. A doctor is kind, with a commitment to the betterment of society.
Ferme ta bouche. Assieds-toi et ouvre tes jambes.
Madam Swiney, I propose a new doctor. One who's kind, who knows their job is about the care and prevention of pain, be hired to examine the men who come here.
That is not how it works, Bella. Doctor.
À ton tour, putain.
Je n'aime pas votre temps, et j'insiste pour que vous partiez immédiatement.
Swiney?
Bella, sit down and let him check you. He can close us down.
I suspect I may have broken your nose. I hope you treat yourself more kindly than you have treated us.
You stupid girl. What have you done?
I've made a strong point in the interest of our betterment. I need to leave. I've answered all the questions I feel I can answer in this place, and new ones that cannot be answered here.
You break my heart. You are so sweet.
I am not. And you are doing that thing where you try to distract me with sophistry and then bite me somewhere on my person.
I just need you for 1 more month. 2 maybe. A fleet of ships is coming.
As that idea fills me with revulsion, I am even more sure that it is time to leave. You may bite my hand while you process this information. Goodbye, Madam Swiney.